Um, if one makes dough from wheat and rice, if it has the taste of cereal, it is liable to challah, and one fulfills one's obligation with it on Pesach. If it has not the taste of cereal, it is not liable to challah, and one does not fulfill one's obligation with it on Pesach. If one takes leaven out of dough from which challah had not been taken and puts it into dough from which challah had been taken, if he can provide from elsewhere, he takes according to the calculation, but if not, he takes challah for the whole. Likewise, if gathered olives became mixed up with nikuf olives, gathered grapes and with gleaners grapes, if he can provide from elsewhere, he takes according to the calculation. But if not, he takes truma and truma maishus, and for the whole and for the rest maisa and maisa sheni according to the calculation.
Okay. So Mishnah Yud hanotel seor me isas chitin. So v'nosein letoch isas orez. Okay, now here's another situation similar to what we were dealing with the mixture of a wheat bread and a rice flour bread. So now if he takes a sourdough from wheat, so the sourdough is from the wheat. Remember that just has to be a very small amount,
Right.
and he uses that to ferment a batch of rice flour. Okay. Okay, so he takes, but he forgot to take challah from the dough before sticking it in. Then after he's made this whole mixture of rice, it's the bulk of it is rice flour. He's making rice bread. He just put in the sourdough so that it should ferment and rise. Okay, so now does he remember? Previously we said okay, it's got to have the taste of when we're judging the dough, if it has a taste of wheat, then it's then it requires challah. But now this is a much smaller amount. It's and sourdough is not there for its taste; it's there for its fermentation effects.
Right.
Okay, so you might think, all right, it's because that's what it's there for. For sure it's going to be chayiv in challah because you can't be mevatel the sourdough. However, the Mishnah teaches us im yesh batam dagan chayiv es b'challah. Again, it follows the taste. So if it still tastes like a rice bread, then there's no need. Im lav en patura. So if it doesn't have a taste of wheat in it anywhere, then you don't have to worry about the challah. So then, when do we say that tevel assers in the minutest amount? Min b'mino. It's only when you have min b'mino that we say that tevel assers the mixture in the minutest amount. V'shelo b'mino nosin tam. Now, and if it's not like and like, then it depends on the taste, and as in the case of the wheat with the rice. Now, why is there such a difference? Well, one of the easy explanations is simply that normally we allow bittul to take place, but here you have it's kind of like a davar sheyesh lo materian. You've got it's so easy for him to fix the situation. So let's say you've got wheat mixed in wheat. You've got some tevel, a small amount of tevel wheat got mixed in with wheat that has had challah taken. So what's the big deal? Take a bit out. If you have dough somewhere else that you're going to use to exempt it, then name you can do it lepi cheshbon. And if you can't, then okay. So then you'll take challah again from this batch and make sure that you don't have any tevel. So why are we going to let you get away with just saying it's batel? So they would say min b'mino is eno batel. Okay, but when it comes to the wheat inside the rice flour, that's so far that there's not even a concern about it. And so why is it only benosin tam? We didn't say davar sheyesh lo matirim is not basil in bin she'eno mino. Even though technically you could say, okay, well, we'll just take challah for it and say, okay, it also has a davar sheyesh bo matirin. But even because I think the min b'she'eno mino is a little more of a makil case because you can taste if there's a taste or not, and you can and we don't, min b'mino we have a tana who holds that min b'mino is never batal. So in this case, it's already a little more lenient, so we're not going to press the point.
We don't have here like we had in the previous mission, where if you had it from somewhere else, you had it with the tumor, and we don't have that here in this case.
Right. That's correct. And there's no need to. If you can't taste it, then there's no need to take it. I think if it was the case that you could taste it, and you say, okay, so therefore we do have to take challah from it, you'd have the same proportions as we learned in the previous Mishnah would apply. That ideally you take some dough from another batch in order to encompass this one. But
Okay.
if not, then you'll take proportionately. You'll take as if the whole dough is challah, it requires challah here.
Okay.
Okay. So you've got two women who cooperate, and they say, okay, we'll just knead our dough together. It's economies of scale. So each of them has 4 cups of flour. Not 4 cups, 4 logim, or 4 logim equals 1 cup. So between the two, each individual share is less than 5 logim. But together they've got more than 5 login.
But this says if two women made from 2 calves.
Right, two women made bread from 2 cups. Each one had 1 cup.
Okay, I want to make sure.
Each one's share was 1 cup. But and now they touched in the oven, or even they touched in the basket afterwards. As we learned, the basket also joins them. Even if they're both wheat flour, that's pater. Because they're going to be separated. They're not considered the same batch, even though they were kneaded together. Okay. However, if these 2 loaves, now let's say a woman makes 2 batches of dough, and she makes them she keeps 1 cup here and 1 cup there, and they're separate batches, but she bakes them in the same oven and they touch. If the one loaf is wheat and the other loaf is also wheat, then we say that they've touched. They're now one batch of dough, and therefore she has to take challah from them. So let's say she was making 1 loaf of wheat and 1 loaf of barley. Then they touched while they're in the oven. Then we say they don't join. Now this seems to be a stira on like the first Mishnayos that we learned. I'm just going back to our first Mishnayos in Challah, talk about how they all join with each other. The 5 grains, all right, they're all chayavim b'challah mitztarfim zeh, and they join with each other. So this Mishnah seems to be a contradiction on our first Mishnah in Challah. And the resolution is the fact that that's when you mix them together to make the dough initially. But when you had 2 separate doughs and you bake them together, then we don't say min b'mino. Then we say min b'mino is chayav and min b'she'eno mino is patur.
Okay.
And we don't count them together to be mitzaref. So Mishnah Beis then asks the follow-on question. Eizehu min b'mino. Okay, so what do we consider min b'mino? We've got our 5 grains, but a lot of them are quite similar to each other. You might think that there's a little bit of an overlap perhaps with Maseches Kilayim. We also start in Kilayim with all these enumerations of different species that are Kilayim with each other, which we also happen to be doing Chazara on at the moment. We could Chitim v'Azunim Einam Kilayim Zebazeh, but here it's not exactly this divided along the same lines over here when we're coming to Challah. Hachitim Einam Mitztarfos Im Hakol Elohim Akusmin. So wheat and spelt are considered similar enough that if you made 2 doughs and they touched, then you would have to then they join together for the share of challah. Okay, but nothing else. Everything else is completely separate from wheat. Now barley is the almost universal joiner. It can be joined with anything else other than wheat. Okay. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri Omer Shar Haminim Nitzarfim Zeh. He says, well, actually, also all the other species also join with each other. So according to the Tanna Kama, the only things that cross lines, the only thing that crosses any lines is barley, and wheat with kusmin. Those join, and barley with anything else other than wheat, those join. Where Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says all the other species that we mentioned, rye and spelt and oats, will join with anything. And the halacha does follow Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri in this case.
Huh. All right.
Right. Okay, Aleph Gimel.
When we finish Challah, where are we going? Going back to
Orla.
Orla. Okay. Right. We'll finish next week. What did we say? We said Aleph Gimel. No, Aleph Beit.
Yeah, Aleph Gimel.
Gimel. I'm sorry. These are liable to Challah, but are exempt from Maisris. Lechet, Shicha, Apeya, Hefka, Maisr Rishon, from which its truma has been set aside. Maisr Shenium, Hegdish, which had been redeemed. The remainder of the Omer and produce which has not reached a third of its growth. Rabbi Eliezer says produce which has not reached a third of its growth is exempt from Challah. Okay. These are liable to maisris but are exempt from challah. Rice, millet, poppy seeds, sesame pulse, and less than 5/4 of grain. Sponge cakes, honey cakes, paste balls, plain cakes, and meduma are exempt from challah. Dough, which was the first sponge cake, and in the end sponge cake, is exempt from challah. First dough and in the end sponge cake, first sponge cake and in the end dough is liable to challah, and so are
Chaos. Yeah.
If I look at the Hebrew, I'll be okay.
That was the thing where they had those flour things that were fried, and I think. Oh no, hang on. Were they fried? Is that? I don't think they were. I can't think. I don't think that they could have been fried. Okay, so it's baby food.
Yeah, that's what it says. It's,
okay.
It's this for small children. Okay.
Master space.
Okay, let me just put this thing over here. Okay. Okay. Space. If they were sitting in a doorway or in a shop, and he said, "Take yourselves some figs. They may eat and are exempt, but the owners of the doorway of the shop are liable." Rabbi Yehuda exempts unless he turns away from his face or changes the place where he was sitting. So I assume if they were sitting in a doorway or in a shop, take yourself some figs. They already took maishus already.
No, that's what the question is.
All right.
The question is, did you if he says that he hasn't taken master's, these are just casual. So basically, he's just walking around giving out gifts of stuff that he picked off his tree, and people saying, "Yeah, take it, have some figs," so you can eat them out. You can eat them. Everyone else who's not in their own domain can eat, but the bala shar bala chanus. But the shopkeeper is now in his domain. He's sitting in his own shop. So as soon as he brings it into his shop, now he's chayav, because that's now kover for mastros. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. He says that it's not really kavua for mastros because people are embarrassed to eat in public. So only if he takes it into his inner chamber inside the shop, then he can where he would be comfortable to eat. That's when he has to. That's where he has to take his masters.
Shop set up and everything, and behind the curtain in the shop, there's a kitchen. That's what he would do. So if he takes it back there, that's a whole different story. Then, okay.
Yep.
If one carries up produce from the Galilee to Judea or sends to Yerushalayim, he may eat of it until he preaches, until he reaches his destination, and so too on his return. For Meir says, until he reaches the place where he will spend the Sabbath. And peddlers who go around from town to town may eat until they reach the place where they intend to spend the night. But Yehuda says the first house is his house. If one says to his fellow, "Here is this Isser, and give me for it 5 figs," he may not eat.
Hold on. Did you do Dalit?
No, I didn't. I'm sorry. If one separated truma from produce before the conclusion of work on it, Rabbi Eliezer forbids to eat of it of a chance meal, but the Chachamim permit except from a large basket of figs. If one separated truma from a large basket of figs, Rabbi Shimon permits, and the sages forbid. Okay. All right.
Okay. Kilayim Aleph Zion.
Zion. One may not bring a tree onto a tree, vegetable onto a vegetable, nor a tree onto a vegetable, or vegetable onto a tree. Rabbi Yehuda permits vegetables onto a tree. One may not plant vegetables in the stump of a sycamore tree. One may not grant a rue onto white cassia because it is a vegetable onto a tree. One may not plant a fig tree shoot in a cistus in order to cool it, and one may not insert a vine shoot into a melon in order to water it, because it is a tree onto a vegetable. One may not put gourd seed into a mallow or order it to preserve it, because it is a vegetable and into vegetable. If one buries turnips or horseradish under a vine, if some of the leaves are uncovered, he need not be concerned about kalayim, or about the shavias, or about maestros, or they may
And
be
they may be.
extracted on Shabbos. Excuse me.
Yeah, sorry, I was just correcting you.
If one sows wheat and barley together, that's kalayim. Rabbi Yehuda says it is not kalayim unless there are 2 wheat grains and 1 barley grain, or 1 wheat grain and 2 barley grains, or a wheat grain and a barley grain and a spelt grain. All right.
All right. Actually, I think the Mishna of the halacha would follow the Tanakama. The halacha is that karka afa pisha ein azra kazra sadeh. Okay, and a karka tia hika chazoreh chita asora keechad. Right. So if only two seeds, it makes you chayav for kilayim.
Zion.
Negayim Yud Beis Zion. Yes.
The Kohen returns at the end of the week to examine the house. If the nega returns, the house is demolished. Its stones, its wood, and all the clay of the house are removed and to a city to a tummy place. From the city to a tummy place. An adjoining expansion of any size is tummy. A distant one must be the size of a gris, and the return of a house nega must be 2 gris. There are 10 houses. If the nega turns dull after the first week or it disappears, it is scraped off and the house becomes tahor. If the nega turns dull after the second week or disappears, it's scraped off and the house requires taharas hatziporim. If the nega spreads after the first week, the owners remove scrapes and plasters, and the Kohen gives the house a week of confinement. If the nega returns, the house is demolished. If the nega does not return, the house requires tahara petzorim. If the nega remains the same after the first week and spreads after the second, the owner removes scrapes and plasters, and the Kohen gives the house a week of confinement. If the nega returns, the house is demolished. If the nega does not return, the house requires taharas seporim. If the nega remains the same after both weeks, the homeowner removes scrapes and plasters. The Kohen gives the house a week of confinement. If the nega returns, the house is demolished. If the nega does not return, the house requires taharas seporim. And if the nega reappears before the owner has made the house tahor with taharas hatziporim, the house is demolished. And if the nega reappears after the owner made the house tahor, the taharas hatziporim, the house is examined anew. A cornerstone which the owner is required to remove must be completely removed, and when he is required to demolish it, he demolishes his side and leaves his neighbor's side. This results in a stringency in the removal of the stone over the demolition of the house. The Elazar says a house built with a main support and smaller materials where the nega appears on the main support, the owner is required to remove all of it where it appears on the smaller materials. He removes his side and leaves his neighbor's side. Right?
That's it.
If a house, that's it?
That's it, we've done 3.
3, yeah. If a house on which a nega appears has an upper story, the beams are considered part of the upper story.
Oh, I just said we've done 3.
You said, I thought you said do 3. Okay. Well, anyway, okay.
Okay, Avos. Okay, Vav Dalet.
This is the way of Torah. Not eat only bread with salt, drink water in small measure, sleep on the ground, and live a life of privation, and you should toil in Torah. And if you do this, you are fortunate, and it is well for you. You are fortunate in this world, and it is well with you in the world to come. Do not seek greatness for yourself, and do not covet honor, and do more than your learning. Do not desire the table of kings, for your table is greater than their table, and your crown is greater than their crown, and your employer can be relied on to pay you the wage of your labor. Torah is greater than the priesthood and royalty, for royalty is acquired with 30 attributes, and the priesthood is acquired with 24 attributes. But the Torah is acquired with 48 attributes, and these are they: study with attentive listening, with articulation and understanding, with discernment, with dread, with fear, with humility, with joy, with purity, with ministering to the sages, with analysis in colleagues, and with the sharp debates of students, with a settled mind, with knowledge of Scripture, with knowledge of Mishna, with the curtailing of holy business activity, with the curling of social activity, with the curtailing of pleasure, and with the curtailing of sleep, with the curtailing of conversation, with the curtailing of laughter, with slowness to anger, with good heart, with faith in the sages, with acceptance of the suffering. I have a break over here in my notes. I don't remember why. Did it go to another new Mishnah, or is it just continues?
No, so Mishnah Vav carries on. It's like the attributes of Torah are split across two Mishnayos.
Okay. With one who recognizes his place, one who is happy with his lot, and one who makes a fence around his affairs. One does not take credit for himself, is beloved, and loves the omnipresent, loves people, loves the ways of righteousness, loves rebukes, loves straightforwardness, distances himself from honor, whose heart does not become arrogant because of his learning, who does not enjoy rendering halakhic decisions, shares his fellow's burden, uh, judges him favorably, sets him on the path of truth and sets him on the path of peace, and who is settled in his study, asks and answers, hears and adds, one who studies in order to teach, and one who studies in order to practice, one who makes his teacher wiser, one who actually repeats what he heard, and one who says something over in the name of the one who originally said that it is for you have learned this, for you have learned this, and that whatever says something over in the name of the one who originally said it brings redemption to the world, and it is stated, and Esther informed the king in Mordecai's name.
Right. And that, of course, set into motion all the things that where Mordechai was able to overcome Haman because the king wants to reward him. Yeah. Okay. Kesubos Beis Gimel.
If witnesses said, "This is our handwriting, but we were coerced," or we were minors, but we were unfit for testimony," these are believed. If, however, there are witnesses that is their handwriting, or their handwriting is verified from another source, they are not believed.
Right. It's again a case of Pesha Asa or Pesha Hitzer.
Right. If this one says, "This is my handwriting," and this one is the other's handwriting, and this one says, "This is my handwriting," and this one says, "This and this is the other handwriting," they are believed. If this one says, "This is my handwriting," and this one says, "This is my handwriting," they must join into themselves to another person. These are the words of Rebbe. The sages, however, said they need not join together another person to themselves. Rather, a person is believed to say, "This is my handwriting."
Right. So the Eidos you needed on the star, and they've got the two Eidim on the star, and now effectively what they're coming and saying, yeah, that's my signature, that's my signature.
Right.
Rebbe wants witnesses to join in and say and give witness that is actually somebody's handwriting, but Chachamim disagree and say that if you're just saying this is my signature, effectively what you're saying is, yeah, I'm giving Adis on this document, and they're both giving Adis in the document, which is all that you really want, and that is the halacha.
If a woman said, "I was married, but I am divorced," she is believed, for the one that created the liability is the one that undid it. If, however, there are witnesses that she was something. She was married, and she says, "I am divorced," she is not believed. If she
Right,
said,
because she doesn't have the Pesha Asher or Pesha Hitzer. Unless she can present her get, we don't believe that she's divorced.
If she said, "I was captured, but I am undefiled," she is believed, for the one who created liability is the one that undid the world. If there are witnesses that she was captured, however, and says, "I am undefiled," and she is not believed, but if after she is married, witnesses came and said she need not leave.
Right. So let's say she married a Kohen first, and then witnesses came and said, "But hey, this woman was captured." She says, "No, but I was tahora." They don't force the Kohen to divorce her.
Right.
Okay, that's good.
Very good question. If you want to get a rye bread, is the word siphon for rye?
Chiffon. Yes.
Chiffon.
Chiffon. Yes.
All right. I wasn't sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Have a wonderful Shabbos.
Well, great Shabbos. Enjoy. Keep cool. It's supposed to be warm again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's okay.
Bye.
Bye. Be well.